Welcome to PV Online. My name is Mrs. Bostic, and today we'll be talking about how to write an argument essay. We'll be looking at specifically the difference between argument and persuasion. Our objective. Students write arguments to support claims using valid reasoning and relevant sufficient evidence. Students must be able to develop precise claims and counterclaims and supply evidence for each. This information is taken directly from the Arizona College and Career Readiness Standards from 2014. So let's talk about what an argument is going to look like, what valid reasoning and evidence and precise claims and counterclaims will look like. First question, what is argument writing? To write an argument paper, you'll need to use evidence and claims to convince others to agree with your point of view on a particular subject. You will also need to gather evidence and present a well-reasoned argument on a debatable issue. So the question is, how is writing an argument paper different from writing a persuasive paper? An argument influences the reader by using evidence and reasoning to express a point of view and uncover a truth for the reader. So some examples of an argument might be things that you'd find in a magazine and journal articles. Those are both examples of arguments. Persuasion is something that you may already have used in your writing. That's to aggressively seek to change the reader's opinion and stimulate an action based on your author's truth or opinion. So this is where you're going to see persuasion will be in like debates and advertising. You'll also see it a lot in campaigning, which is popular depending on what time of the year it is. So there's different times when you'll see persuasion when we're trying to change people's opinions to match our opinion. An argument is trying to actually change a person's perspective or point of view. So, for persuasion, the goal is to persuade or convince the reader to do or believe something. It's to promote a point of view that may be rooted in truth. But argument is what we want to move towards. So, a goal is to have the reader acknowledge the argument as credible or valid and deserving of consideration. For persuasion, your starting point is really you just pick the topic and you choose a side. For argument, your starting point is going to actually be to research and collect data about your chosen topic and then choose or align with a side. For your purposes, you'll have a choice of topics within your particular assignment, but you're going to want to do your research first and figure out which side you align with more closely, and then start your writing from there as opposed to just going off the top of your head or just off of prior knowledge or opinion. In persuasion, your viewpoint is emotional or personal and self-gratifying. A persuasive essay is really just all about what you want to talk about. An argument, on the other hand, the viewpoint is objective and evidence-based, and you're looking to be fair-minded. That'll come into play when you're looking at your claims and your counterclaims. In persuasion, you can basically make a statement and write it down, and that's just your opinion. But in an argument, you have to give us valid evidence and give us credible ideas to back up your particular opinion. In persuasion, your methods are usually other opinions and are sometimes considered. You blend fact and emotions, and you rely on opinions as your evidence. For an argument, you have to look at other viewpoints. They just have to be considered. And you have to provide factual evidence, which is where our research and our claims will come into play. All right, for an example, let's look at a persuasive essay sample first. So you can see right here that they start with their topic sentence, animal testing has benefited human health. They go through and give you some more information, and then right over here it tells you animal testing should continue to benefit medical research. So you know what their thesis is and you know where they're coming from, so that's a good intro to a persuasive essay. The first thing they do in a persuasive essay is, in order for scientists to create new drugs, they have to be able to test them. And they give you information throughout that paragraph on why that would be important. The next thing they talk about is the cost of animal testing makes it an affordable option. The last thing that they look at is animal testing saves human lives. The part I want to look at here is actually this part right here in the blue, where it says, when surveyed, 99% of all active doctors in the United States stated that animal research has paved the way for many medical advancements. That's great information, but they don't give us any citation. They don't tell us where that information comes from. We're not even sure if that's true. So that's where we're looking at in a persuasive essay. You can kind of use some of these ideas that are not necessarily as credible as what you'd want in an argumentative essay. In an argumentative essay, if you use that same information, we'd need a citation saying where you got that information from. So you can see here we have our closing essay or closing paragraph, but the one thing I want you to really pay attention is the persuasive essay completely ignores any counterclaims to the argument. So we have 3 reasons here why we support animal testing. You can see here that we have all of that documented, but what we don't have are any counterclaims or any information that might refute our decision, talking about why animal testing should continue to be allowed. Now in this sample essay, this is actually our sample argumentative essay. So here in our opening you can see it says, medical research involving animals has dramatically improved the health of the human race. So we know where this argument essay is going. Then right here it tells us exactly where it's going to go. It says this essay will outline the advantages of animal testing. So we know what to expect from this particular argumentative essay. Our first claim or argument is animal testing allows scientists to test and create new drugs. In that paragraph, we go on to explain exactly how that happens and back up that piece of evidence. The next one is animal testing is cheap. Again, you see they give you information that there's a large supply of animals available. Animals are easily bred and maintained safely in controlled labs. All of that information is there to offer evidence or support for that particular assertion or claim. Now here we actually move into our counterclaims. Many people argue that animal testing is cruel. So one of the most effective ways to argue something is to actually take on the people who are going to disagree with your particular point of view and talk about how they may or may not be wrong. So in this particular counter argument, they go on to say in some cases this is true, but it would be much more cruel to test drugs on people or children. And they go on to give you more evidence to support that particular claim. Here you'll see that opponents of animal research also say that information from animals does not apply to humans. Again, they go on to give you the specifics of that information and say while it is true that animal systems differ from human systems, there are enough similarities to apply information from animals to humans. Our final counterclaim, animals' rights campaigners claim that we don't need new tests because we already have vast amounts of information. So they go right back through and refute that. However, many new drugs are needed to combat these deadly plagues. So you see we have our closing at the bottom here as we kind of go through, but the most important thing to look at as we look at these 2 different options is that we have at the top our statement right here. We have where we're going to go with that essay or our thesis. Then we have these pieces of evidence in favor. So these are our pro claims, and then here we have our counterclaims, our information that we want to look at and say, this is what people say, but this is how we refute it. And that's really the difference between a persuasive and an argumentative essay. So in conclusion, research is key for a good argument. If you have any questions, make sure to ask your teacher or visit your PV Online course for more information. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thanks.